sister.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
part of the...
Thank you for doing this at the last one,
Oh
girl.
my God, I would love to.
And I told you, okay, I got you on my list, girl, and I'm calling you.
And you have first female guest.
I know.
Yes,
That's
that's what I
awesome.
told
I
her.
hope my lips okay. My hair looks weird.
You look amazing.
Okay.
There's no, you not looking good, so that's your least worry.
This is cool.
So-
How are you? I love you.
Thank you. And you
miss
can
you.
talk about anything that you want.
Okay.
Whatever. My favorite thing about you, and this might be too personal, and
Tell
that's
me.
up to you, because I want you to be comfortable.
I'll
And
do
it's,
it.
It's
I'll say
your
anything.
story.
Mhm.
Our miracle baby.
Yes.
Zoe.
Absolutely.
That's a story that I would love for you to tell.
Mhm.
If you're comfortable.
Yes. Absolutely.
So what I want you to do is walk through when you found out in our conversation.
I always tell that story with you because I don't know if you remember, but when I had went into the, well, first of all, you and I had a conversation about it, and you had told me not to, you said that morning I called somebody, and I had shared about that experience because, I talked to you about it, and you said, Danielle, you can make whatever choice that you want. However, I'm going to tell you that we're working a spiritual program right now, and we're on a basis of trusting God.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, so you make whatever decision that you make, but remember that we already made a decision when we started this process that we were going to turn everything over to God.
Mm-hmm.
So if you pray about it and you still get that, then go. And I didn't. I relied upon myself. Self-reliance failed us, right?
Yes.
And so
exactly.
So then whenever I went, I remember calling you when I got out of the clinic, and I said, Lorene, I'm still pregnant. And you said, I don't know what you're crying for. You said, I told you wasn't in control of nothing. Now stop crying and get to a meeting. That's what you said.
There we go with that. I ain't got time for that crying shit. Most of you guys, all my sponsors,
Yes.
my sponsors presently, and my sponsors that I've sponsored in the past, they all tell me the same thing. That's the most important thing they tell me. They remember me by. I ain't got time for that crying shit. Let's get to work.
Yeah. Get to a meeting.
So I think I became known for the sponsor that I don't do crying. I don't know how to handle that shit. So we ain't doing that. What you gonna do about it? Let's get to work. So
We ain't doing that.
yeah.
That's my other saying. One of my best friends, I always say that I'm like, we're not doing that. And he just start cracking
Not
up.
today.
We're not doing that.
We ain't got time for that. What we're gonna do about it? We need to take
Right.
some action.
Action.
That's what it's about. Action. It's already been done. Nothing I can do about that shit is done and over with.
No.
So what are we gonna do about it?
Yeah.
Let's move on. So,
And you gave me a completely different perspective because you said that's not even your child to be making that decision. That's what you said.
remember that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I was like,
remember that.
Because when we come in the program, we don't know what honesty is.
No, because shit, it's like when I come into the program and we work 6 and 7, and my character defects. Now you want to take away my armors. It's like this is my protection. This is what I use, and now you're telling me I got to discard that, and it's like, I can't do that. What am I going to have to defend myself? That's
right.
when my character defects work.
I'm completely wide
I
open.
use them for defense. And I come in and you guys tell me that I got to put them in check. I don't want to do that.
And I have to let God decide what's good and what's bad.
Yes.
I don't get to make that
I don't get to
decision
make
today.
that choice. Even though I think I'm in control, I'm not in control of shit.
You're in control of shit.
Yeah,
Get your
I'm
ass
not
to a
in
meeting.
control. I used to tell you that all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
And
Yeah.
I still hear that voice. I still hear it. When I get into some self-pity, I hear Lorene, I don't know what you're crying for. You better take some action. Get your ass to a meeting.
Yes, yes. That's such a powerful story. And
But
Thank
you
you
walk
for
through me
agreeing.
with it,
Yeah.
And what's crazy is you know, I always have wanted to, I'm super comfortable. Like, there's no discomfort. I don't care from the grimy details to what that is, because I feel like people should know what exactly you're signing up for when you do that, you know, and that fear.
Yes.
Because I'm not going to say most people, but for myself, like, I was like, I just got on my feet. I, you know, don't want to disappoint anybody. It was that fear of people, it was fear of man, fear, financial insecurity, like all of those things. And I'm like, I just got sober. There's no way I can do this. And, and you know, God, he, my honest prayer, I think that's one of the keys is, like, even if I'm going through pain in sobriety, it's how honest can I get?
Yes.
Right? And I told God, I said, God, I was crying, and I said, you know what? I don't have the faith. I don't have the faith to do this. Like, I just got sober. I just, you know, what am I going to do? I'm like, so, you know, with that fire and brimstone background, I think that, you know, he's going to take my other 2 kids because I made this decision, you know.
For a punishment.
For a punishment.
Yes.
And then what did he do? He turned around and gave me an immeasurable, immense amount of grace.
Yes.
You know, and
to
he was
be
like,
able to walk through, you know, if I believe in this higher power that I say I believe in, then when I'm going through something, I've got to also believe that he's going to carry me through.
That's right.
I can't, and I said it sometimes in the 12-step program, and I said I can't have faith and fear at the same time.
You always say that.
And I know other people, and it's none of my business, but it's still there. I'm human. Other people think they don't understand that when I say it.
You got to start one.
Yeah, when I say it, a lot of times I'm in the 12-step program room. A lot of times I'm saying things to confirm it for me.
Right.
It has nothing to do with you.
That's like being at a bar. When I'm, you know, because of the industry that I'm in, and I do same with you. You're around alcohol a lot, but we're free, right?
Yes.
So I tell people I'm in recovery, and I don't say that for you. I say that to remind myself.
That, you know,
I'm here to be of service.
I'm here to be of service, and I'm here to be, what is it?
Useful.
A few among the many. Do you remember that paraphrase? I can't remember. I'm told that I shouldn't even be trying to say those kind of things because I don't remember the correct way to say them.
I say I come and make my own quote.
But sometimes I'm just to be there to be of service and be a part of something, not to take over the whole show, because
make it about me.
I'm like the actor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's one of my favorite things. It, you know, talks about I want to run the whole show. And when I start doing that, oh man, self-real one right. That's me.
And then I blame everybody else.
And then I blame everybody else because I put you over there and you moved. Who told you to do that? So I have to remember that I'm here to be a servant.
Yeah.
And I have
happily
to keep
useful.
That. Yes, that's something that I have to practice every day, and it has to be, it's got to be there for me to remember.
That's right.
You know, when I'm trying to be useful to others, I've got to make sure that I'm okay with me too. I've got to take care of me. And the way I do that, I attend meetings, I talk to other alcoholics, I try to reach out to others. I try to be of service to my family and to my friends, because all those things, girl, I didn't give a shit about being of service to anybody.
Come in here, wreck this whole thing, and leave, leave the tab with y'all too.
Yeah, it's gonna be a hurricane. When I show up, I'm gonna show out.
Show up, show out, leave.
Yes,
and then y'all can put the blame on somebody else.
Yeah, and you got to put all the pieces back together.
Yeah,
because I made a wreck of everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So today I have to be mindful that I can't do that anymore, girl, because for me that's alcoholic behavior, and if I continue to act that way, then I'm told that I'm going to go back to drinking and drugging.
Sanity returns.
Oh, my goodness. That's I wouldn't trade this life for anything.
Even the worst.
Even the worst
The
day
worst.
that I might have, if I didn't pick up and drink today, man, I'm winning.
Winning.
I mean, it's like,
I'm winning.
check that off. My
you
day
know,
was
when you
perfect.
hear, when you know, if I start to get into some self-pity and you know, I'll go listen in to the fellowship and let them say, you know, I hear somebody, you know, I've got 3 days, and you know, and then I remember that torment, that alcoholic torture, you know,
Yes.
where
Yes.
it's just like your brain cannot get it out, and it's disabling.
Yes.
It's like, you know,
Yes.
and I'm like, oh Jesus, like, thank you for my job, thank you for my kids, thank you for the freedom, thank you for my, I mean, that gratitude list just gets rolling,
Oh
you know?
my goodness, I know. It's like I have to immediately get in gratitude. You know, if I don't, you know.
You would always stop me, and you would always say, when I called you complaining about something, you would say, and so what are you grateful for today, Danielle?
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'm grateful that I'm not in jail. I'm grateful, you know?
Yeah,
Hey, can we pray real quick?
Yes.
Let's pray.
Okay.
Okay, I'm pray. Should we start? Should we do the Lord's Prayer?
We can do the Lord's Prayer, whatever's on your heart.
Okay. Let's do a set aside prayer.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. God, we ask you now, first of all, I thank you so much for Lorene, and I thank you for this time in this space, Lord. And I just pray that, you know, you will help us just to glorify you with everything that you've given us. We thank you. We thank you for this time. We thank you for this space. We give this back to you for you to do whatever it is that you want to do through us for those watching. And we just ask that you will take everything that we think we know about our recovery, about what other people think about their recovery, the programs that they have for recovery, the people in recovery, and you, God. And we ask that you will please help us to have a new experience with you and with one another, and also with our story, that, you know, we could just be here to recreate and be able to reach those who have not yet heard this message. We love you so much. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, are we ready?
Are you ready?
Uh-huh.
Ready.
We're ready.
Ready.
All right. Go ahead and do your intro. And go.
Hey y'all, this is Lorene with Silver Lining. Thank you guys so much for being here with us again today. And I have my guest, who is a former sponsee of mine, Danielle, and she's here to share her story. And welcome, Danielle.
Hi, thank you. So glad to be here, Lorene.
Oh, so
Love you so
happy to
much.
have you, girl.
Yes.
So you work a 12-step program.
I do.
And let me start off with how we met. I remember it was a birthday night, and this pretty girl comes in, and she's all tatted, and man, you're gorgeous, and you're fitted, and you come up and you ask me, you know, hey, what's your number? Can I call you sometimes? And I go, sure. And I put you in the phone as Danielle, the workout girl. That's what I had you listed in my phone. And later on, you called me and you asked me, would I sponsor you? And what an honor that was. And we started working the 12 steps together.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one experience that I would like for you to share with us.
Absolutely.
That it touches my heart. And sometimes, and I know that I have your permission when I do this.
Yes.
I tell that to other people that I'm working with, that story, and it's such an impact. And that's what I want to hear from you today.
Yes, of course. Well, I am super grateful to be here, you know, and I love you so much because I'm alive today because you took the time with me, you know, and so I'm very
Thank you,
grateful
girl.
for
I
that.
love you too.
Love you. And, you know, you walked me through one of the hardest times in my life. You know, I had tried recovery so many different times. You know, I first started in 2001, you know, doing court-ordered programs. And, you know, I had no desire at the time. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that I had a problem. I didn't know that all of these behaviors that I had, or these thoughts and these patterns, that they were something that needed to be changed. I didn't have that awareness, and so moving forward from 2001 until 2015, where I was facing, 5 years in prison. And I remember, you sharing your story as well and having that identification. And whenever I did get your number, I remember you sitting me down and you said, Danielle, you said, I'm not here to be your friend. You said, I am here to save your life. And I had never heard that before, and I'm like, okay, I like that. Yeah, because I had a lot of friends, right? We get a lot of friends.
Plenty of friends.
And so I said, man, she's here to save my life, and I battled. I mean, I battled so hard, but that's another story for another day. And so, the fear that we have to identify in recovery, right? The fear of people, the fear of
just not doing it right.
Yeah, just not doing it right and doing it wrong and trying to figure it out.
Yes.
And so I thought that I had it kind of figured out. So here I sit, a year and a half in sobriety, and I have you as my sponsor. And I said, everybody's out there doing their deal, they're clubbing, they're partying, they're having families, they're doing all this stuff, and woe is me, look at me just sitting in this house, staying sober, being a mom, God forbid.
Yes.
And
Cadillac problems.
Yes, right, luxury. But I had just, I lost everything except for my children by the grace of God and my freedom, but I was so set on doing it right, doing everything right. And so, I stepped back out into the dating scene, and I'm like, well, I remember the thought that I was just going to have to accept that I was going to have to date somebody who drank.
Yes.
Because I'm like, there's nobody out there that I want to date that's sober, right? And I never wanted to intermingle in recovery. And so I would always, seek outside sources for that fulfillment. And it was the lifestyle, Lorene. It was the lifestyle that I was so attracted to, right? And so I'm thinking, well, I have my recovery over here. I'm sober.
Yes.
So surely I have enough sobriety to go over here and play around with the world. You know
what that's called?
What?
Self-knowledge.
There you go. Availed as nothing.
Yes, exactly.
So I run into somebody, and we had mutual friends, and I get into not a relationship, but we had talked and we went to dinner and did different things, and I ended up one thing after another. Obviously, we all know how that happens. I got pregnant. Okay, immediately. And there was a conversation that took place, and I'm being careful with my words because I don't want to put anybody else out there.
Yes, exactly.
And so I'm trying
it's
to keep
your story.
The focus on what the prize was, and so this person was the same as my insides, right? Their outsides matched my insides. And that was, wanting to be loved, wanting to be sober, wanting to, having a similar past and everything like that. And so once I saw the way, this person's drinking was, I was like, man, I had to be honest with myself, and say that this is not something that I can do. And so, continuing on with my program, the event had already happened. And so the interaction, and I find out that I'm pregnant. And so I make a phone call to that person and I said, hey, just want to let you know that I'm pregnant and I'm only about a year or so sober, and my family's going to be highly disappointed in me. And so this is not something that I can do. And, can you help me? Can you help me get an abortion, And it was not reciprocated because there had been, several weeks in between. And so there was room for doubt, and I understand that. And so so I ended up taking it upon myself. Oh, no, I spoke with you. You were my sponsor at the time. And so I had spoke with you, as it states, in the literature, to seek counsel, you know. And so I reached
Yes.
out to you, and you told me, you said, Danielle, I am okay with whatever decision that you're okay with, but I want you to do one thing. I want you to pray, and if that is still your decision after you pray, then, you know, do as you wish.
Yeah.
And
I also remember discussing with you when we had worked the fifth step. Do you remember that? And I said, just remember back and that you are okay with not continuing old past mistakes that you have made.
Mm-hmm.
Remember we discussed
Yes.
that.
Yes.
And I said, remember how it affected you in the past.
Yes.
Remember we talked about that?
Yes.
And
Mhm.
that's when I suggested.
You had told me we're on a different basis now.
Yes.
We're on a basis
yes.
of trusting God.
Yes, and we can't continue to do the same thing because what happens is we will get the same results. Yep, I can.
And you know what I learned is that being sober and relying upon self is a miserable existence.
Yes,
It's a miserable existence.
it is.
So I have the same
It
behavior
is.
and just take the drink away,
Yeah.
but the consequences come, and now I don't have anything to anesthetize
And it
that.
makes it
Sometimes
worse
harder.
than when I was drugging and
Yes.
drinking. Because I don't have
But
that
now you see
Danate
it.
anymore.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
Now I know.
And feel it.
Yes. I mean, it comes at me full blown.
Yep. So, you know, we had that conversation, and I wasn't convinced, you know. I wasn't convinced. I was still on the fence because my fear was so much greater. My fear of people was so much greater. My fear of what people thought, my fear of
Yes.
being alone, my fear of having a third kid, you know, by a third person.
Yes.
You know, what are my kids going to think? What are their dads going to think? What's my family going to think? What are my church friends going to think?
Yes.
You know, like just everything. It was all about me. It was my pride, you know. And so then here's what also I've learned is that when I rely upon self, I still end up having to do an inventory on that. So it's like double the work, you know? Okay, so let's go back to this. Let's break this down. Where did this go wrong? But so, you know, I decided I didn't pray. I didn't pray till after. And that's usually how it happens, right?
Exactly.
We do the deal, whatever the deal is, and then we pray after. We ask for help
Yes.
after. We pick up
Yes.
the drink first. We call the sponsor
Yes.
after. You know, we call on God after the police pull us over and wrap us in handcuffs and put us in jail, you know. And so you were trying to teach me something that I just was not prepared to hear, you know, or willing to do. I didn't have the willingness.
Yes.
You know, it was a simple prayer. And I think that the hesitation was, I kind of knew deep down inside that God would help me, you know. He would help me to overcome that. And I was almost like I didn't want to overcome that because I just wanted to avoid, right?
Well, I want to do what I want to do. And once, you know, that's why he gives us self-will. We're the only animals that he give that to. And because I have self-will, a lot of time that gets me in trouble.
That's right.
I know deep down because it says there's God inside of each one of us.
Each and every one of us.
And sometimes I don't want to acknowledge that.
Right.
And when I don't acknowledge that, and he lets me use my self-will, that's when all the chaos starts.
And the pain.
And the pain.
Because I will return to that point where he wants me to be.
Yes.
It's just a matter of what is it going to take to get
How
me there.
much of pain am I willing to go through
Yes.
before that happens?
That's right.
It happens every
And
time.
it's an immense amount of pain. I mean, I believe that we as alcoholics, we are like, we're not invincible, but we think we are.
And we can take a lot of pain. I know this alcoholic can. And, you know, when I go through pain, I justify it. Well, I'm a strong woman. Most people can't do this. Who would want to do that?
And we build up the tolerance.
Yes,
Right?
we do.
Yeah.
We do. I mean, the more pain that I was getting when I was drugging and drinking, it made me stronger with being able to take more,
That's right.
you know, until, you know, I got
Till
sick
I
and
busted.
tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that pain just makes you puts you in a place of submission where you just, you know, it's TKO. We're
Exactly.
done. Game over.
Yeah. So you decided to go through the abortion.
I did. I decided. So we had that conversation, you know, and I said, man, there's just no way. There's no way that I can do this, and I don't really want to pray about it because I don't, I was fixated on this is what I'm going to do. And as an alcoholic, that's what I do. If I'm going to do something good or bad, and I have my mind and I have made that decision, I'm going to do it. So I set the appointment. I went in there and I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Had this friction in my stomach about it the whole time because I'm sober. I am in awareness because I am working these steps. I do have that God conscience,
Yes.
and those things are working spiritually, but there's still that friction
Yes.
of that self that hasn't died off yet, right? And so they're in
They're
collision.
they're conflicting with
Yeah.
each other. They're like,
Yep.
yeah.
And it talks about that. It says that,
Yes.
when I'm in self, I'm in collision with something or
Yes.
someone,
Yes.
right? And then I step on the toes of my fellows and they retaliate. And that's exactly how it happened. So I went and I had the procedure done. And I want to talk a little bit about that. So, how we visualize what something is going to look like, or I visualize what something is going to look like. And then it turns out, good or bad, it turns out completely different than what I had imagined.
Yeah, up here is perfect.
Yeah.
But once out here, nothing like what I envisioned it.
And then I'm like,
To be.
what have I done? Right.
Yes.
So I walk into this clinic and there are probably, I want to say maybe 60 to 80 women in a setting about this big, right? And, everybody's in there. And obviously, I have a relationship with God, so there's that internal dialogue, like, should we do this? Should we not do this? What Lorene is saying is going on. What I think people would say is going on. What I feel the spirit moving in my heart it's all of this communication, this internal dialogue that's going on as I'm sitting there in this awareness of all these women that are about to make that same decision, right? And I'm wondering, is she scared?
Yes.
Is she afraid? She's got to be afraid like I am.
And I'm sure nobody's talking to each other.
No. Oh, no. No, everybody's looking down, and I want to say, if I remember correctly, there was children in there, There was other people that maybe they didn't have care for their kids, but there were children in the facility that were kind of running around. Every chair was filled. And so, I don't know about you, but when I get around different vibes or different situations, different experiences, you can feel this heaviness, right? When you walk into a room with, when I walk into a room and I see you, I feel this
Yes.
joy, right?
Yes,
And
I know
this
what you're talking about
security.
exactly.
You walk into somewhere else and there's a darkness in there, you can feel that, right?
I understand that.
And so I'm feeling that heaviness, and I'm looking around and I'm like, man, I just want to get this thing over with. Like, I want to be done with this. I can't believe I've done this, And so, as God would have it, or as I would have it, not God either way. So I'm there, and then I set the appointment. I come back for the appointment. They do the procedure, and so I'm walking down the hallway, and there's about 6 rooms on the left, and there's about 6 rooms on the right, and it's white, old painted, hallway, pretty long hallway, and you can hear, Lorene, the screams of the women, on both sides. You can hear the vacuums that are, completing these procedures for these women. You can hear them screaming between the screams, the vacuums. Then behind that, there's a recovery room, and, you go in there, and it's, it's one of the most spiritually, physically, and mentally painful things I've ever done in my entire life, ever, And I think when we get sober, we think that we can do certain things,
Yes.
And that's not, we can, but we're going to feel it on a level that's not even obtainable because it's so heavy. And so as I go into this room, the procedure is being done. It was terrible. While that procedure is being done, I can hear everything that's going on in here. I can hear everything that's going on out there. And then it's just like turn and burn, turn and burn, turn and burn, turn and burn on both sides, and just one by one, just like a, I want to say it reminds me, I wasn't a part of this, but, something like what I've read and learned about, like the Holocaust, on maybe a smaller scale, but still the same visual of just people being hauled off into this room, to just terrible. And so we go
you hadn't had the procedure yet.
No, yeah, I had it.
You had.
I
okay.
did. So
okay.
you can hear everything.
Wow.
And it's just, it's a short but very intense and very traumatizing and very memorable experience. And so, after the procedure happened, and like I said, you can hear everything that's going on. You're not sedated. You're not nothing,
Yes.
And so fully conscious. And then you go into this room that's set up like this, and there's all these plastic chairs everywhere. And and women are puking, women are crying, women are just laid back, and just sweating, and the whole, and I'm literally sitting like this, because as alcoholics, I think that we have a way that we can mask that pain.
We can check out.
Yes,
we can check out of situations that don't make us comfortable, or that we just learn to do that. That's one of our protections, and we've checked out so many times when we our bodies might be there, but our minds aren't present.
Mm-mm. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, well, it's over. But I'm like, but is it? Look at this. And I wasn't even thinking about myself in that moment. I was thinking about these women, Yeah. And because I tend to care about other people more. Like, I would tell somebody, don't do that.
Right.
Don't do that.
Right.
That's terrible. Don't do that.
Right.
But to listen to somebody else tell me not to do that, I'm like, everything will be okay. Just calm down.
I can tell you what to do, but when it comes to me on that same level, I'm not able to do it. That's where sponsors come in.
Yes.
They see something that I'm not able to see because I'm too close to that situation.
That's right.
So that's why it's really good for me to have someone else that I can bounce something off.
That's right.
That can show me my truth, because I can't.
And
see
it only
them.
works if I do it.
Yeah, you said the magic word there.
Mm-hmm. It only works if
you
I do
work it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that means. It works.
You
if
can
you
tell
work
me
it.
all day long, Danielle, don't do that.
Yeah.
If I go and do it, and then I'm like, well, Lorene, but I told you.
Mm-hmm.
I told you.
Yeah, I used to tell you a lot of times, we're going to discuss this how many times?
Yes.
And I'll discuss it with you twice, and after that, I'm done with it, because obviously you're not listening to
That's right.
the advice that I gave you, and there's nothing else that I can say.
No. Because we can keep rationalizing it, right? We recreate the problem in our mind, and we're like, okay, Lorene, but what about this? And you're like, well, this is the same thing.
Yes.
We've already identified what this is.
It is. It's like,
and
sometimes, you were talking about earlier, I suggested that you pray and ask God. I know for me, I do pray with different things that's going on in my life. And sometimes the answer that I give myself, it's not even God, but I tell myself it is. So sometimes it's hard to know, okay, is this God's will or is it Lorene's will?
That's right. That's why we got to ask for clarity.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So when situations happen like that, I'm told in the rooms of the 12-step program, I'm to pray about it.
That's right.
And then I meditate about it, and then I leave it alone. And I go about my way, my day, or whatever it is.
Turn my thoughts to someone I can help.
Put my thoughts on something else.
Mm-hmm.
It can be working in the yard, or checking on a friend, or checking on another alcoholic. I leave it. I let it settle. And then the answer will come.
That's right.
And I truly believe in that.
Mm-hmm.
It comes without me even knowing
That's
that,
right.
hey, that's the answer. How did I get that? Where did that come from?
And that's how we know, because it wasn't
Yes.
manufactured
Yes.
through our knowledge.
Yes.
Right?
That's when you know.
Aha. And
The
those are the
aha
spiritual experiences, you
Oh,
know.
girl,
I used to have a hard
yes.
time. What's going to happen? Fourth
Yeah.
dimension, spiritual experience. What's going on in
Yeah,
here?
well, that's a lot. I can't
What
deal
are we
with
about
all
to do?
that. So,
Yeah.
you.
So I had the procedure, and it was the worst. You know, it was the absolute, it was the worst situation. And, you know, I still remember what it looks like. I remember what it smelled like. I remember, you know, what it felt like. And I remember leaving there, and I have that fear of, oh God, what's Lorene going to think about me whenever I call her and I tell her? And I think that, you know, as sponsees, our sponsor, like, you know, it's referenced as a trusted servant, somebody that I
Yes.
can trust, that's going to be there, you know, to serve
Yes.
God,
Yes.
you know, by facilitating thoughts through experience, you know, sharing experience and
Yes.
stuff like that. So there was that fear, you know, I didn't want to tell you, because I'm like, well, now I've disappointed her. And then, you know, the fear of, oh my God, now I'm going to get drunk. Oh my God, now God's going to punish me. You know, all that fear, it just consumes me.
Hits you at once.
All hits me at once. And I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have listened to her. What if something happens? What if I go home and die? What if I don't wake up the next morning? What if, you know, like all of that. So I ended up going home. I didn't call you. I don't know that I told you immediately, but I did tell you later. So I went home, and I prayed. And I remember going in and walking into my house just feeling so empty, you know, and like seeing my other two beautiful children, and being like, well, there goes that one. You know what I mean? Like just like calloused, but I don't know. It was just a whirlwind of emotions. And so I hit my knees, and I got on my knees, and I prayed, because the weight was so heavy that I couldn't really, you know, carry it anymore. And I had to go to God, you know? And so I got on my knees, and I just started crying, and I was praying, and I said, God, you know, I'm going to be real honest with you right now. I'm sorry that I did that. And you were the one that taught me not to say I'm sorry. You'd always say, we don't say I'm sorry. We're not sorry people. You can say when you're wrong. You can apologize to somebody, you know, but we don't ever say that we're sorry. And
Well,
so
they already know we're sorry, folks. So we ain't got to tell them.
say it. And so I said, you know, I wasn't trusting in you, you know, but something happened in that moment, you know, that moment of honesty. And I think that it's the same prayer that I prayed whenever, you know, I got sober. And that was whenever I cried out to God, and I'm like, God, you've got to take this from me. Like, you have to, please. I cannot do this another day. And
Can't
so
do this burden alone.
no. So
And I like this one saying. It says, down on my knees, I learned how to live.
there you go.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
I have to get low before I do anything
Yes.
else. I have to.
I'm more humble when I'm down on my knees.
That's right.
And
Every
praying
day.
to Him.
Hmm.
I'm more humble. So you had the abortion. You
Said my prayer.
said your prayer,
And then I left it alone.
When did you? Let's get to where you found out.
Okay. So
The
at that
miracle.
time, I think I was probably
You heard what I call it, the miracle.
the miracle baby.
Yes.
And so about 6 weeks later, 8 weeks later or so, you know, I had not had my menstrual cycle, and I'm thinking, okay, well, that's weird. Let me go and call them and see if something's wrong.
Right.
And so I call them, and I said, hey, you know, I had the procedure about, you know, 8 weeks ago or so. And I just wanted to see if I could come in for an appointment, because I have not had my menstrual cycle.
Right.
Well, I said, can you tell me what that might be from? And the lady that was on the phone was telling me, oh, well, there could be some complications. You could have this, you could have this, you could have this. And I'm like, oh, geez. And so, oh, wait, I missed a key part. So my prayer to God was, after all of that, I said, please protect my children. Please protect these children.
Wow.
Please protect these children. Now, mind you, I was pregnant with her, you know?
Yes. Oh my goodness.
So that was my honest prayer was, I didn't have the faith to go through with it. Please protect my children, you know? And God never answers in the way we think. And so I ended up, you know, moving forward. I wait 2 weeks. I said, we can't get you in for 2 weeks. And so in 2 weeks, I waited 2 more weeks, go in there for the appointment. And they take me back to the this is a different facility, right? This is like the actual office facility. So they take me back to the room, and they said, okay, we're going to do a vaginal sonogram on you, and just see if, if there's any tissue extra, whatever's going on in there. And so I'm like, okay. And I'm so scared because I'm by myself. I don't have the, I don't have the permission, I guess you could call it, from my sponsor, right? So like, and that's the thing, is like, when I'm secure, I know that I can be honest and transparent.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's how I know I can walk into something confidently. But when I'm doing something that I'm not supposed to, and let me just say this. So I went to church one time, and I heard this saying from a pastor. He said, anonymity is the enemy of spiritual growth when I am hanging out in places with people where I'm not being held accountable.
Yes.
It can be the enemy
like
of spiritual
that.
growth. And so so I'm in this place, I'm by myself, I'm alone, I can't tell anybody, I've got to do this in silence. Now I'm having complications, we don't know what's wrong, why I haven't started my menstrual cycle. And so I go in there, and the lady takes the vaginal sonogram, and she immediately, after she did the procedure, she goes and puts it back, turns the thing completely away. She wasn't showing it to me in the beginning because they normally don't do that. So it was like positioned, the machine, sonogram machine, was positioned in a way where I couldn't see it. But then she like turned it all the way around to where I really couldn't see anything, like even if I just leaned forward, and she walks out of the room, doesn't say a word. So I'm like, okay, well, what's going on? So I grab the machine and I pull it towards me.
I'm not surprised.
I grab the machine. I'm like, let me see that wand, right? And so I take the one that goes on your belly,
Yes.
and I'm like moving it around, and I see Zoe just bouncing around, like hands, feet, everything. And I'm like, oh my God, she's going to come back in here. So I freaked out because I saw her on the screen. I was like, oh my God, there's a baby in there. There's a real baby. And then all the fears of like, oh my gosh, what if something's wrong? Now I've really screwed up, right? Now I'm really
Yes.
scared, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I done? What's going to happen now? Everybody's going to find out. And I was just really scared. So about 4 people walk in the room. It's the administrator, the doctor, the nurse, the, physician's assistant, and then the sonogram person. I mean, they're all in the room together. Mm-hmm. And they said, okay, well, we have good news, and we have news and more news, I think is what they said. And so I said, okay, well, what's the news? Okay. And and I already knew, right? But I thought they were going to say, oh, well, we did a sonogram and we looked, and this child has been severely damaged. And so we're going to have to remove the baby or something. I mean, I didn't know what they were going to say. And so he says, you are pregnant. You are about maybe 18 weeks pregnant. But we have a solution. And that solution is that, per the state law, we cannot, and I don't know if I'm saying this proper, this is just how I remember it, but, according to the state law, we, technically can't do it after a certain point.
Right.
But for this case, we will do a DNC, and we'll complete the process because this was a mistake. And I hear Lorene's voice in my mind, and you were like, that's God's child, that is God's child. And you said, that is not your decision to make, Danielle, but if you want to make that decision, you can make that decision. But remember, this is what you said, the consequences, good and bad, you would always say consequences, good and bad, are yours to be, whatever that may be. And so, so when they told me that, I said, oh, no, I've got to get up out of here because this whole place is about to burn down. And I'm like, just let me out. I don't care about the money. I don't care about any of y'all. Just get me out of this chair. Let me put my clothes on and get out of here. I have to call Lorene right now and tell her what happened. And so I remember they wanted me to like sign some paper, or maybe it was a waiver. No, I did ask a question. I said, can you please just tell me if the measurements are, what they're supposed to be. I mean, have I done anything? Is there any damage? Have I done anything? I don't even know what that looks like, but I remember what I saw was life. I saw life, and just her bouncing all around. And so
I think that was God doing, where you took the little device and you looked and you saw, this is a real child. This is my child. I think at that moment, that was God doing that.
For me, what I couldn't do
what
for
you
myself.
can do for yourself. Because I don't know. I can't say. I don't know. I just know that it sounds like, had you not looked and saw,
I might have said, yeah,
yes,
let's do it.
Yes.
And it could have killed me.
It could have. It could have. Now today, how old is our miracle baby?
She is 5 and alive.
And a
5 and alive. She is a spitfire. And so I will say, this is another God shot. So she was due on my birthday, and I ended up naming her Zoe, and she's just been the biggest blessing, and so I ended up, I called you. I remember I ran into the parking lot and I got in my truck and I was bawling my eyes out, and I called you and I said, Lorene, I was like, I'm still pregnant, Lorene. And you said, I could just see your face on the other end of the phone. I could see you like, I don't know what you're crying for. Okay, I told you, you are not in control, Danielle. You are not in control. So quit crying, take some action, and get to a meeting. You said this was God's will. Yeah. This was God's will. Now, what's the next right thing? Now you need to go ask him what the next right thing is to do, and get to a meeting, because they'll probably tell you, Yes. And so I cried and cried and cried, and I was so scared. But, going back to all that fear, and as God would have it, or the way everything worked out, her father ended up terminating his rights, like right before she turned 4. And I'm just like, I've battled with like, what could I have done better, but I've come to a place, by the grace of God, I've come to a place where I'm like, you know what? Everything was necessary. Everything was necessary.
Because had you not gone through what you went through, you wouldn't be here to share this experience. I don't know how many women that are out there need to hear this story. And that's our biggest blessing. Sometimes, I know for me, the things that I've gone through, they make up who I am. And I can't share with you something that I haven't experienced.
That's right.
You've experienced that, so I don't know how many lives you can touch, and that's what this program is. This is what this podcast is about, to show other suffering alcoholics and addicts that we do go through some horrible things.
I am not exempt.
It ain't about what I go through. It's how do I walk through those things with the grace of God.
That's right.
Holding my hand and come through and be able to share my experience with another alcoholic and an addict.
That's right.
That's what this podcast is about. And I just want to thank you. Yeah. And I want to tell you how much you mean to me. You mean so much to me, Danielle. I love you so much. And that story is one of my favorites. And it's got so much meaning behind it, and it just goes to show you ain't in control of shit, like I used to tell you, baby girl.
And here's the beauty in it all is that so I picked a name for her, because I have my other kids and they have different names and stuff, and so it's not like a regular name, right? Yes, so I said, what about Zoe? And I remember I was doing lashes for this lady, and she was a missionary, and I met her on Yelp. And so I'm doing her lashes, and she says, what's that baby's name again? And I said, oh, that's, her name's Zoe. And she goes, oh, do you know what that name means? And I said, no, I don't. And she said, it means life.
Wow.
Choose life.
I love that.
And I was like, of course it does. And she was due on my birthday. But I will say, to the women who and men, you know, because we do stuff in recovery when we're first coming in, or whatever we have going on when we come into the rooms, or what we acquire while we're here and just trying to figure it out. And I think that fear, right, that fear of I'm going to be on welfare, I'm going to be, you know, in these government offices waiting hour upon hour just to get help for my kids. I'm going to have to go stand in these lines and eat at a food pantry. Like, that was my worst fear. I never wanted my children. Not that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying I wanted a different quality for my children. I did not want it to be, I did not want my children to experience a hardship just because of my irresponsible decisions, right? And so being that, you know, you're walking in here and I'm full of fear, and I have not, by the grace of God, I have not ever had to struggle financially. Financial insecurity has left me, you know. The promises have been fulfilled, and they continue to be fulfilled one day at a time, as long as I work, as long as I'm willing. I may not work this thing perfectly, you know.
Nobody does. I mean, I don't. I can't speak for everybody else. No, I don't work it perfect.
No. And the fact that, like, God can use, you know, it's where that calamity meets serenity, right? It's where he can take one situation and that, you know, step 6 and 7, where it talks about those character defects. It wasn't even a concept to me that I needed to, what I was surrendering was my idea of how things were supposed to look. Right?
Right.
And they're supposed to look exactly the way they are. I just don't have to do that alone. And so that's when I have people come in and tell me, okay, Danielle, we are going to carry you. And everybody carried me. I brought the kids to the meetings. They would sit back in the room. They would color. They would do this, you know. And I've been fully provided for. I've had to struggle, you know, mentally in sobriety. I've gone through depression. I've gone through hardship. But I have never been without. I've never been without someone to call. I've never been without someone to be there for my children. I've never been without, you know, food, shelter, water, clothing. I've never gone without, you know. And so that just goes to show that when I do this thing blindly, that those things will come. They will come.
Well, I want to thank you for being on Silver Lining.
Thank you.
What an amazing story. And it just gives me goosebumps. I didn't know the full story. You didn't tell me everything. But what an honor it is to know someone like you. I'm blessed to have a friend, someone like you, to call my friend and say, I know such a powerful woman who can stand up and say, you know what, I believe in God, and he's brought me through, and he continues to bring me through. That's what I heard from you. And you give me hope. And I just want you to know that.
But I could not have done it without you, Elle, you know. And that's the thing. We got to have good sponsorship. We have got to have a powerhouse. We have to have people to do this who are going to be honest with us. And you never gave me your opinion. You never gave me your opinion.
That's a new one.
You never gave me your opinion. You were very matter of fact, and I needed that because I had so much pity, you know, and that would have killed me. That would have killed me.
Thank you for being on Silver Lining. We're gonna wrap it up, and I hope that this message. I don't have to hope. I know this message will get to the person or people who are meant to hear it and receive it. Thanks, guys. Thank
we
you
love
for
y'all.
Being here.
Thank
we
you.
love y'all. If nobody told you that today, you're hearing it from me and Danielle.
That's right.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Love y'all.